This is the Live Well and Thrive podcast, hosted by Torchia, health and wellness expert. It's time to shape up, America.
Hi, it's Mike Torchia, and welcome to Live Well and Thrive. I have an incredible guest today, George Gallo. You'll probably remember some of the movies he's done, Midnight Run, Bad Boys. He's not only a talented writer, director, producer, but he also paints, and he's a musician too. So, George, welcome to the show.
Great to be here, Mike. Thanks.
So you've been a busy man.
Yeah, thank God I'm always pretty busy. You know, it hasn't really stopped since I got here. I came out in 1983, so I've been at this quite a bit, a long time.
So film was in your blood.
You know, I couldn't figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up. You know, I still kind of can't, you know, because I still do a lot of stuff. But yeah, I wanted to be a screenwriter and a director pretty much more than anything. And, you know, I came out here, like I said, in 83. I had a couple of scripts under my arm. One of them was Wise Guys with Danny DeVito and Joe Piscopo. That was the first one that got made.
That was great.
Thanks. That was a lot of fun.
That was hysterical. Those wrestlers that were in it.
Yeah. Lou Albano. Yeah.
He's funny with the rubber band on his beard.
Yeah.
That was a perfect cast.
Yeah, Captain Lou Albano played Frank the Fixer.
That's one of my most favorite movies.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I wrote that. Then the next thing I wrote was Bad Boys, but that didn't get made for several years. And then, so it was originally sold to Paramount. That sat at Paramount for a bunch of years. Then right on the heels of that, I wrote Midnight Run. And that really changed my life.
Wow. That's an incredible movie.
Thanks.
And that cast,
Yeah, it doesn't get any better than that. You can never get that movie made today. I mean, a big giant chase picture from New York to L.A. with, it was a 90-day shooting schedule. I mean, you never get that done today.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what was the movie that really made your career? Was it Midnight Run?
Midnight Run really put me on the map, yeah. And I was like 30 years old when I wrote that. And then the next thing I wrote was 29th Street with Danny Aiello and Attila Paglia, and I directed that. That was my first movie I directed. And I did that for 20th Century Fox. So I was on a great run when I came out here.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the people, the actors you've worked with, the producers, I mean, it must have been such an honor and privilege. Like Danny was a great man.
Danny Aiello? Oh yeah, terrific.
Salt of the earth.
Yeah, I love Danny. Danny did a great job. It was my first movie directing, so I was a little nervous, but he was very, very helpful and loving and warm and helped me through couple of spots, but he was always shocked. He goes, kid, you sure you haven't done this before, because I really had it in my head. I really saw the movie because I'm a painter. So I started out as an artist. When I was younger, I had art shows, and I'd already won a couple of awards, in my early 20s as a painter. And so when I thought possibly of becoming a film director, it was easy for me to see what I wanted to do, And but he was still very helpful.
That's great.
Yeah.
I recently went to the screening you had at the Directors Guild at the Comeback Trail, which I could not stop laughing.
Thank you.
The whole time.
Thank you.
The chemistry between the whole cast.
Yeah.
Perfectly casted.
Everybody, it's in a comedy, it needs to feel loose. It can't feel stilted in any way. And everyone kind of knew. I knew De Niro for 40 years, and Bob knew Tommy Lee Jones and Morgan Freeman. They all knew each other. And so they all instantly, you could tell there's a lot of love, a lot of respect in the room. And, I was telling my friend Jeff, who's here, the first day of shooting, I was in bed. I woke up early, 4 a.m, and I had to be on set at 7. And I'm like, today I have to direct Robert De Niro, Tommy Lee Jones, and Morgan Freeman. And I'm like, what the fuck am I doing here? Because how do you tell those guys what to do? But it was great. I got on the set and they were just like, we were like all buddies. All right, what do you want us to stand? What do you want us to do?
Was there any ad-libbing throughout the movie?
Well, in a comedy, there's always ad-libbing, I think, because you want it to keep it. Even though I co-wrote the screenplay, but I don't want people getting too uptight about dialogue. I want it to just feel real. I just said to everyone, look, because you know the story is utterly ridiculous. I said, look, I just want you to play it totally straight, totally commit to what you're doing, and they did. So, yeah, I'm very proud of that movie. You know, we took a couple chances with humor here and there, you know, and because some of it's irreverent by today's standards, you know. But I didn't care. I said, fuck it, let's just have a good time.
But, you know, it had the feel of the 80s movies.
Well, that's kind of the era where I made my bones, you know, with the... So, yeah, I had... and it took place in the 1970s. So the first thing I did was... I wanted to try to replicate sort of the style of 70s cinema. So I watched a lot of those movies that Arthur Hiller did, because he did a lot of comedies. He did The In-Laws, and he did the Out-of-Towners, Silver Streak. So a lot of those comedies that were done in the 70s, they had a very kind of a loosey-goosey feel to them, you know, and obviously they were shot on film. They weren't shot on video. So I tried to replicate those dynamics, you know, and right away, because, you know, Bob and Morgan and Tommy, they all come from that era. So they knew right away what I was trying to do. So they were all on board with it.
I remember the first time I went with my family to see The In-Laws.
Yeah.
We all laughed. It was good for children, adults, feel-good movie.
The In-Laws is hysterical. I mean, I still quote it. Remember at the dinner table, Peter Falk says, I was in the bush for a total of 9 months. Shell, I saw chichi flies the size of eagles. The natives had a name for them, Jose Grecos and Muertos, the flamenco dancers of death. I mean, I've seen that movie so many times. It's like, to me, it's like Shakespeare, some of that writing, you know?
Yeah, but they tried to do that remake. And
No, it didn't work.
Yeah.
Didn't work. I mean...
Peter Falk was amazing.
Peter Falk and Alan Arkin, because what was great about the original In-Laws is, well, you never knew whether Peter Falk was nuts or not. Was he a crook? Was he in the CIA? What was he? You know, you didn't know until the last 5
And
minutes.
you try to figure out the whole time through the movie.
Yeah. And it's I loved it. And Alan Arkin just doing that. What is he doing? Oh, he was just out of his fucking mind.
Incredible.
Oh, no, it's great.
Those two together, magic.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a movie to watch for chemistry.
And De Niro had that same feel as Peter Falk did, In-Laws, with
Yes.
the kind of sense of humor, but you're like, is this guy crazy?
Yeah.
Man, he's serious. But it was that same chemistry. You got that magic in the bottle.
Well, thanks. You know what was great about when we were doing Comeback Trail? You see, you know, Bob's a little older than me. Bob was around in the 70s when I was, and, you know, he started out doing independent movies like, you know, Mean Streets was an independent movie. Those early Scorsese movies were independent movies. And we knew a lot of those cheesy movie producers. Like, he plays Max Barber in the movie. He plays probably the worst producer, right, in film history. He knew a lot of those guys. So when we started talking about his character, there was one guy who I really liked. I don't want to mention his name. He was the biggest cheeseball producer in the world. He had an office in New York. And you'd go visit him, and he was always talking about Fellini and all this bullshit. And then he had, like, movie posters behind him of, like, you know, topless women. I mean, he's just so full of shit. You know, I want to make a movie that speaks to people, and he was making crap. So and Bob knew him, so we were laughing a lot about these characters. So he based a lot of his performance on some of those people we knew.
Wow. But, you know, it's still going on today. That same kind of shit's going.
Oh yeah. There was a particular, I think, colorfulness to some of those earlier characters. But, you know, thank God I've steered clear now a lot of them. But every once in a while I'll come across one.
You know, it's so funny. It was a few months ago. I was at this producer's house. I won't mention his name, and he had all these posters up of these movies he's done many years ago. And he pointed to the one with a really well-known actor who I happen to know very well. And he said, oh, yeah, we're close friends. I said, really? You talk to him? Oh, at least once a week. I said, really? I said, wow. So he kind of pitched me, he wanted to do the slate, wanted to help me. He wanted me to help him raise the money for the slate of movies. Right. And these were movies that have been shot to death for the past 15 years.
Yeah, of course.
Right? So I call up the actor and I go, yeah, I was told that you're all close with blah, blah, blah. He goes, I'm going to kill that piece of shit.
Yeah.
He ruined my movie. He stole millions of dollars. He padded the budget. And here's a guy that's out here still to this day trying to sell the same crap.
Yeah.
And who knows if it ever get made.
No, I mean, look, in the making of the Comeback Trail, because, we had a hard time trying to figure out who owned the original rights. And because the movie was never, it's sort of a remake. It's not really a remake, but it is in that it's the same basic premise. And we were trying to track down the original rights. And there were a lot of people that claimed that they owned the rights to it. And then we would go meet them, and then it was all bullshit. But one guy who was like a guy out of one of these movies, his name was Max. And he had a movie office that was on the third floor. It was over a mattress store all the way down in downtown L.A., and he said, "Yeah, I own the rights to the Comeback Trail," and he didn't own shit, And he was, as soon as the lawyers got involved, they go, "Well, where's the paper?" He didn't have any of it.
So who ended up really having it?
Well, that's an interesting story. The way the original version of the Comeback Trail, like I said, was never released, and I was at a comic book convention when I was 18 years old. We went from Portchester, you're from White Plains.
Yeah.
So we jumped on the train. We went down to the city, and we all went to this comic book convention. But I wasn't that into comic books. I just wanted to get out of school, and I went there. It was in a hotel, like on 54th Street or something. But I went down this hallway, and I heard a 16 millimeter projector rattling. And I opened the door and I looked inside, and there were these 7 or 8 guys. It was like a smoke-filled room. And they were watching a 16 millimeter print of an unfinished movie that I later found out was called The Comeback Trail. And it was with Buster Crabbe and Chuck McCann and Professor Irwin Corey. And they were trying to kill Buster Crabbe for the insurance money. And I thought, this is a terrific idea for a movie. So for years, I kept waiting to see if it was going to come out. It never came out. I kept looking for the rights. And all I knew was that it was done by a guy named Harry Hurwitz. And I could never find anything on Harry. And so years and years go by. I keep looking for the rights. I can't get them. And one time I got asked to on Midnight Run, there was going to be a big screening of it at Phil Rosenthal's house. And a whole bunch of people were there. And I was supposed to introduce the movie. And I go into the theater, and there was a woman there, lovely lady. She comes up to me, and she says, "I just wanted you to know that this was my husband's favorite movie." And I said, "Thank you. What's your name?" And she said, "My name is Joy Hurwitz." I said, "Are you any relation to Harry Hurwitz?" She said, "Harry was my husband. How do you know about Harry?" I said, "Well, he did a movie years ago called The Comeback Trail." And she went, "The Comeback Trail?" She said, "That movie was never released. How do you know about this?" I said, "I may have seen the only screening of it." I said, "In New York, like 40 years, then it was probably 30 years ago." She couldn't believe it. So I said, "Who owns the rights?" She said, "I do."
Oh, wow.
Harry left me everything in the will. So I said, "Wow, well, you might be my new partner." And we shook hands right there.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, that's how that happened. And then I wrote the script with Josh Posner. And then we couldn't have, this is crazy too. This was all kismet. We couldn't sell the script. We gave it to people. They all said the same thing. It's very, very funny, but it's a movie about making a movie, and everybody in the movie's a scumbag. I'm like, yeah, that's the joke, but, well, our studies show that, anyway. So just about the time I was about to give up on it, like a lot of years go by now, I get a call, nice call to get. Robert De Niro calls me up. And because I know him from Midnight Run, and we talk a lot over the years, and I worked on various things with him over the years. He calls me up, and he said he had just finished The Irishman, and he goes, "Georgie, I've been living with this very dark character in my head for like a year." He says, "I need something utterly ridiculous." I went, "Utterly ridiculous? I've got it." I says, "I've got it. I wrote the script." He goes, "Bob, you'd be perfect." So he says, "Send it to me." I sent it to him. He calls me 2 days later. He goes, "How come nobody's making it? It's the funniest fucking thing I've ever read." I said, "Bob, if you want to do it." He goes, "I'm in." I said, will you allow me to direct you?" He goes, "Yeah, of course I will. Let's go." So then it came together like in a week.
Morgan Freeman then jumped in?
Freeman jumped in. Tommy Lee Jones, all in a week it happened.
Wow.
But it took 15 years to get there.
But what I loved about De Niro? I didn't realize how funny he is. He was terrific.
He's hysterical. I mean, he let his hair grow and he looks like Albert Einstein. No, he plays a raving lunatic.
I mean, I've always seen him as this mob guy, tough guy, and to see the other side of him.
Oh no,
I want more now.
No,
I want more.
I know. I got another. Actually, I have another script he'd be great in. Maybe I'll reach out. Yeah, he is just. He's in person. Because you only know sometimes these people through their work. He's the nicest, warmest, funniest guy. What's great about Bob is, you think of like Taxi Driver, The Deer Hunter, The Godfather 2. You think of all these movies and he has to be a very, very serious actor, a very serious guy. When we were doing Comeback Trail, I would say, I told him, I said, look, you're basically playing Wile E. Coyote because everything you do to hurt Tommy Lee Jones, it's blowing up on you. And I would be talking about, a Wile E. Coyote episode, and he'd be like, "Is that the one with the anvil, or is that the one with the ball bearings?" I mean, he fucking knew all the Wile E. Coyote episodes.
Wow.
So in many ways, he's like a kid,
Yeah, and I really hope he does more comedy. It was refreshing.
He's great at it. And what's great? Look, that character, he lies through the entire. He's like just a pathological liar. But there's something so lovable about the guy. You forgive him for everything. He's trying to kill somebody and you forgive him,
And he believes his own lie.
He believes his own
bullshit. That was what's so terrific about it.
Well, there's another thing. There's a line in the movie where this actually happened. I was having lunch with a very well-known producer. I don't want to mention his name, even though he's in prison. For real. We overheard him at a table once. He was fighting with another producer, I guess, or a financier, and the financiers or whoever the guy was said to this producer guy, he said, "You're lying," and his response was, he goes, "I know, but hear me out. I mean, you can't write shit like that."
That line, was hysterical.
That's in the movie.
I loved it.
Yeah, the guy really said it. So I didn't write the line. I overheard that line. So, but only a Hollywood producer could say that line
and get away with it.
And get away with it. I know I'm lying, but hear me out.
So what is next?
What is next? I have a lot of stuff. I have a script called The Castle, a horror movie. I've got a gangster movie called The Accidental Gangster that I co-wrote. And then I've got a film with Jeff. Wherever Jeff is, there in the dark, there he is. Another gangster movie that we're working on. I've got a lot of things I'm working on. I'll tell you the truth. I've always considered myself like a journeyman filmmaker. It's like I put stuff into the world, and whatever goes first, I'll make, because I learn something on every movie I make. I've directed 14, 15 movies. I'm always learning. Every time you work with an actor, you learn something. Every time you try to you go for a laugh and you miss, you learn something. William Friedkin said he worked just as hard on his failures as he did his successes. You just hope that they're all successes. But like I say, it's just a long learning curve, and that's why I'm doing this. I love doing it. And
so being a creative person with music and art, it kind of went all together for
me.
Writing.
It's all the same thing.
Yeah,
it's all the same thing. It's the same urge. Only one thing's a visual, the other thing may be words, the other thing is music.
Now, how do you feel about television?
I'll do TV. I'd love to do TV. I actually have a possible TV series in the works. I mean, it looks like it's coming together.
That's great.
Yeah. So I just want to keep working. Yeah. There's a painter named Edward Redfield who I deeply admired. And he died at the age of 97 signing a painting. So I'd love to go out that way, George Gallo, and go out.
It's so funny. My friends and I, when I was younger, would talk about how we think we'll end our lives. And I said, well, I either want to be in the gym pumping iron or in bed with the most beautiful woman in the world when I kick it.
Yeah, that sounds good.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, this is how I want to go. I don't want to be in a bed dribbling spit.
Yeah,
people standing over me feeling sorry for me.
Yeah,
I rather go out. That's it. Bang,
that doesn't
done.
Sound too thrilling to me either.
Hey, it's Mike Torchia. I got great news. My sponsor, Texas Slam Cuts, is providing a line of products for Live Well and Thrive. We're going to have high quality beef jerky sticks that are high protein, not full of any chemicals and dyes and additives that are toxic to the body. Also, we're going to be offering desiccated liver tablets, high protein, antioxidant. We're also going to have 100% beef protein powder in 3 different flavors. Delicious, mixes easily, and is so smooth to drink. And it can be put into your oatmeal and other beverages if you want to add some flavor. Also, final product that we're going to be launching is a organic butter infused with olive oil. Creamy, great tasting, and spread smoothly over your toast, or you can cook with it too. Nothing that's going to have any kind of toxic ingredients or questionable ingredients. So go to operationfitness.com. Within the next few months, you're going to start to see this whole line of products made by Texas Slim Cuts and the ranches up in Texas, and it'll be under the label of Live Well and Thrive products. Thanks for watching, and thanks again for Texas Slim for sponsoring this show, making it possible. And remember, you need to subscribe to YouTube channel. That keeps my show going. And share the episodes. Thank you. So now, share about your art. What kind of art do you do?
Well, I'm a serious artist. I've got stuff in museums now. I started out as a landscape painter before all the movie stuff, and I love being outdoors, and I love painting, and I'm very much, I'd say, an old school impressionist painter. And I love just studying the light and the trees and light landing on objects, and I'm just fascinated with it. And started painting when I was a kid. Again, like I said, I was very seriously into it. And then, I started getting interested in movies. And then I was like, well, movies and painting, it's sort of similar. And I loved music. So, music is in films. So I had just like a natural, I gravitated towards it. And I don't know, it just sort of happened. And I was very naive. I was like, how hard could it be to write a screenplay? And I wrote a screenplay, and then I sold it. So, I mean, it's all...
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. So now if someone wanted to buy your art, is there a place they can go to
Yeah,
find it?
I'm at Rich Timmons Fine Art in Doylestown, Pennsylvania.
Great. We'll put that up on the screen.
Okay.
When we air it.
Yeah.
And then as far as the music, are you actually performing?
I don't like to perform. No, I perform for all the drunks at my house. At like 2 o'clock in the morning, I get out the guitars if I want to chase them. Hey, I got another one. All right. See you. No, I've written a lot of tunes. I love writing music, but most of this stuff I kind of just do for my own amusement and pleasure.
Would you do any soundtracks for your movies?
I've had some songs I've written I've put in my own movies. In Double Take, the Eddie Griffin, Orlando Jones, they stop in a country bar and there's a girl singing, I threw my ring down the toilet because that's where our love went. So that's in there. And I've put some of my songs in movies.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, to me, it's just, it's a kick. But the songs I've written are all very, very personal. Things that happened in my life, people that I love and people that are no longer with us, so I wrote tunes about. So.
Well, I remember when at the Directors Guild, when we had the Comeback Trail screening, I just turned to one of my friends and I was like, is George a stand-up comedian? You are so captivating on stage.
Oh, thanks. Really?
Quick, very clever. Oh. And the way you opened it up was not like a typical person that opens up a screening. You're telling us stories. You're making us laugh. So we're already in the mindset of enjoyment.
Well, I meant what I said on it, and I didn't rehearse it. It just came out of my mouth. But somebody, filmed it with their phone. They taped it with their phone, and I looked at it later. I think I said, I hate going to these things when filmmakers start talking about their fucking movies, because to me it's like, oh, shut the fuck up and just show the movie, And that's how I felt. But they wanted me to, to introduce the movie. So, yeah, I don't even really remember totally what I said, but thank you. Yeah, no, my wife and I have been together for many years, and I have asked her many times, why the hell are you with me? And she goes, you make me laugh. So I guess I've been amusing her for decades already.
No, it was really, You could tell it was from the heart.
Yeah. And my wife, Julie, is also one of the producers of the movie, so I got to give her a plug.
Was she in the movie or just?
She's in the movie. She plays, remember the KTLA roving reporter?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's interviewing everybody on the red carpet. That's Julie.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, yeah. She's been in every movie pretty much I've ever done. So
That's nice, though. Now, do you have kids?
now we tried, it didn't work out. So we overcompensated with animals. At one point we were rescuing, if it had 4 legs or wings, we rescued it. At one point we had 8 cats. Yeah, we have a big house. So we had cats and dogs and birds, and I get at the end of the month. I was doing the checkbook. Who's Tuffy for $853? She goes, that was the one with the 3 legs that we rescued. So yeah.
Well, it's funny you brought that up because in June, all my guests are going to come in with their pets.
Oh,
I'm featuring like very well-known people and their pets. Like, how did this pet come into your life? How does it add value to your life? What do you feed them? How do you take care of them? How does it bring joy? It's all about pets. And maybe we can bring in. Do you want to bring in a cat? Do you want to bring?
We got our one cat we got left is Sophie, who's more like a dog than a cat. She'll come running, but I don't know if I can get her in that box. She hates traveling. She's not bad. We've had other cats that go batshit, but no, she's not that bad. But that's an interesting story in terms of Fluffy. Not Fluffy's the one before her who passed. Sophie. My wife was scouring when Fluffy passed away. We wanted to get another cat, and she found the most moth-eaten, fucked up looking cat. I mean, this thing looked like it had been beaten to death with an ugly stick, Wow. And she said, "This is the cat we're getting." I'm like, "Oof, honey, you sure about this?" And she was like, "No, that's the one. I'm going to nurse this one to health." This is the most beautiful cat. It just morphed.
Wow.
With just love. I'm telling you, it's the coat changed, the color of the coat changed. It's remarkable. She couldn't hardly open her eyes. She's got these beautiful blue eyes, and now she's spoiled as can be. And now it's like, hey, where's my food? Where's my thing? Where's my toy? But she was at death's door when we got her.
Thank God.
Yeah.
You got her because you had a lot of love in your family too.
Yeah, I adore this cat too.
Yeah. I rescued this cat, it's like an alley cat that was at a local shelter. And I just went there because I like to look at the animals and I make donations.
Yeah.
And I saw this one kitty, black and white kitty, young, it's about 8 months old. And I was just looking at this cat and he reached out and he kept patting me on the hand. And it said that this cat was going to be put down. So I went over to the woman that's running the kennel. It's right here in West LA. I said, "Why is this cat going to be put down?" "Oh, we call him Moo. He's black and white like a cow. 2 people that had rescued him, adopted him. He bit them." Well, sometimes cats do that.
Yeah.
And doesn't realize it. And so I said, "I want this cat." They said, "It's not available." I said, "I will make a very large donation. I want this cat. I will sign anything that I understand that there's
Good
no
for
reason."
you.
So I took this cat. This cat I've had for 16 years. It is the most affectionate cat. Now, when it tried to do that, I say, "No."
Yeah.
Next day, never did it again. But here was a cat that was going to be put down because it just grabbed someone's finger. They're just playful, right?
Yeah, well, and they're also testing, that's what they do. They test limits. They're like kids, and Sophie, they were going to put her down the next day. So I can't imagine the world without her in it. She's like the greatest cat.
Yeah, you know how they talk to you?
Oh, God, yeah.
Isn't it beautiful? And how about when they did that kneading thing?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, isn't that adorable?
She's all over my wife. She's just with the paws and the ears go back. Yeah.
And I have another orange kitty that was rescued from Hawaii that was abandoned outside this hotel. Brought that kitty home.
From Hawaii?
From Hawaii.
This bothers me. I love hearing this. There was a cat. I was making a movie in Mississippi. There was this black cat. I used to eat outside in the apartment complex. He used to come lay by my feet. I just assumed he belonged to somebody because he was well fed. And when I was leaving to go back to L.A., I opened up the door of the car. I looked around. The cat wasn't around. I figured I'd say goodbye to him. He appeared from out of nowhere, and he jumped in the car. And I was like, am I supposed to bring him? And I'm like, no, he belongs to somebody. I can't steal a cat. So I didn't bring him. I often think he wanted to come with me.
I'm sure he did because I'll tell you, I went to the guy that ran the kitchen, and I noticed he was putting things out. He said, I've been feeding this since it's a little baby. Scraps.
Yeah.
They're just alley cats, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I decided coming home. So then I had that kitty with the other one I rescued. And I also had 2 pit bull puppies I rescued, brother and sister. Do you know they all sleep together?
Oh, I love it.
It's the sweetest thing.
No, I believe it. No, believe me. We're animal people. I mean, yeah. I didn't know we were going to talk about animals. I could tell you animal stories. My wife, Julie, when we were doing Double Take, she rescued this little thing. It was a bird, I guess it had fallen out of the nest. And she knew nothing about birds, and you can't put it back in the nest because the mother will reject it. Yep. So I'm like, what the fuck? Honey, I'm shooting a movie. I can't be worried about this. She goes, no, I'm going to feed this. I'm going to raise this thing. So she's feeding, and then she finds out I got to feed it with her. She has to feed it with an eyedropper, I think, like every hour.
Wow.
She was getting up all frickin' night and feeding the bird and feeding the bird and feeding the bird. And then we had all these cats. That's when we had 8 cats. They couldn't wait to get introduced to this bird. But so it starts flying around the bathroom. This is going to sound like a bullshit story, but it's not. And so we finally get the bird, and it's ready to fly. So we take it to some bird sanctuary place, which is like an hour away.
Yeah.
And we let it go. And we're crying like 2 idiots, But, we raised it. So off went the bird. And about a year later, I'm not lying. I'm not making this up. I was in the backyard. I was sitting there's like a chase lounge. I was sitting there, and this freaking bird comes up to me. That's the same exact bird, right? Comes right up to me like this far away and starts flying and chirping. And I'm like, holy shit, it's got to be the same bird.
Yeah.
But it sounds insane, but I'm telling you, I knew that bird was saying, thank you for giving me my life. I could just tell. And then the bird took off. And I told my wife, come out. But the bird didn't come back.
But even when you're talking about it, they bring such joy to you.
Of course they do, because it's innocent and, innocent life. And, then, you feel connected to God,
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, my house, I have a very large backyard, beautiful shrubs and palm trees. So it's like a paradise. So I go out there with the dogs and they run around. But later on in the evening, the possums come out.
Oh, yeah. We feed them
The
too.
raccoons come out.
Yeah, we feed them all.
And they love butter cookies. It's hysterical. And they come right up. I put it down. Even the squirrels during the day, I feed them nuts. The little baby squirrels in my hand, slowly taking the nuts.
Yeah.
So when you come to my house, it's like a paradise.
Listen, don't tell my wife. She'll be over there with bags of butter cookies, So, yeah.
George, I got to thank you for coming on, man.
You had a blast. Thank you for having me, Mike.
Yeah, and plus, we're both from Westchester.
I can't, 914 area code.
I know, right? I can't believe we never met, and we're around the same age.
I know.
Same community.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. Maybe our paths crossed at some point.
Probably, yeah. We'll have to go out, dinner with Nikki. All of us go out and have fun.
Yeah, that's great. I would love that. Nikki's great. Nikki's an old dear friend.
Yeah. No, he speaks so highly of you.
I'm sorry to hear that.
That's what it's so funny. The night of the screening, I said, George, I'm a good friend of Nick Vallelonga. You said, I'm sorry to hear that. I laughed.
Oh, great.
That was a good line. I loved
thanks. It. Yeah, my father used to say that stuff. That's where I got most of the stuff I pilfered from my family. So.
That's beautiful, man. Well, thank you again for coming on.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you.
It's Mike Torchia signing off. I just want to thank you for watching the show. George's story is so heartwarming and touching and inspirational. If you have anybody that's really wanting to pursue the film industry, share this episode. It could change their life. It can inspire them to really pursue their dream like George did. And please subscribe and share this episode. We need your support. Thanks for watching.